Many people do marketing as far as their food truck goes every single day. They're making posts, they're creating content, they're doing a lot of things to get their name out and say to the general population, please come eat my food. That's all marketing is. Well, today I'm going to talk about a segment of marketing, and that's called community involvement. And that's a little bit more of a roundabout circuit to get people to come eat your food, because your focus is getting your name out, not necessarily saying, here's a coupon, please come eat my food. So we're going to talk about community involvement today. Welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach, author of 5 food truck vending books, including Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. Marketing. We all know the word, but what does it really mean to market for your food truck business? Table Needs has you covered. Their step-by-step food truck marketing guide teaches exactly what you need to do to reach more people and to get more hungry guests ordering from your food truck. Click the link in the description below to get your copy today. You guys have heard the story of the very first restaurant company that I worked for. Again, was called Rax Restaurants. We sold roast beef sandwiches, kind of like Arby's is today, but we focused on roast beef. We sold ham. We eventually added on turkey, but we were deli kind of sandwiches. The company started in Columbus, Ohio, and my first adventure with the company was when it had its 35th store, and it was in Ashland, Kentucky. The store number was 302. And how the numbering convention worked at Rax Restaurants was the 3 represented the third state that Rax had entered, and then the 2 represented it being the second physical store in that state. So 302 meant we were in Kentucky. Every store in Kentucky started with a 3, and then 2 just represented at what point we were in the timeline for the company. Store number 301 was also the same building. It was a Burger Chef, and our company owned or was a big franchisee of Burger Chefs. So it kept the same numbering convention. They just changed it to a 2 to represent our second business operating in Kentucky. I started there as a teenager. I've worked there a couple of years, and they asked me if I would like to help go open a new restaurant as an employee. And I said, of course, I would love to do that. It was going to be in Ironton, Ohio, which is directly across the river from Ashland, Kentucky. The store was going to be a new prototype store when they had just started building, where it had a single line, very similar to what Wendy's was in the late 70s, early 80s. So we had a single line plus a drive-through. The store in Ashland was the old scatter register system, and what that means is when you walked in, there were multiple registers across the big long counter, and you selected whichever line was the shortest and got into it, waited on the cashier to be able to take your order. Sometimes be as many as 6 cashiers across that front service area. And then, of course, we had a drive-through. So it was exciting to me as an employee to go work for this new design and see how it worked. And they wanted me to be the one to make sandwiches. So I was going to be their daytime maintenance guy making sandwiches. So you're thinking, but Bill, what does all this have to do with the store and marketing? So we're going to get into that. When I first went to Ironton, Ohio and opened up the store, it was gangbusters busy. In Ohio, which is where the company originated, in Columbus, Ohio. So our number opening Ironton was 151. So 1 being Ohio, the first state that our company was in, and 51 being the 51st Rax Restaurants opened in Ohio. So it meant there were a whole bunch of other stores around the state, and people were pretty familiar with our name. So when we opened one in Ironton, we were busy. We were crazy busy. We were setting records for hourly sales and doing all kinds of really neat things. And we were way busier than any of us had ever experienced. We were effectively doubling the sales in Ashland. So it was a neat thing to be there. It was a neat opportunity for us. There were 3 hourly employees that came over and then a whole bunch of management. Now the store was doing awesome. And if you guys remember my personal story, I eventually got promoted into management and went off to Charleston, West Virginia. And if you're curious, West Virginia, the numbering convention for those stores is 2. And I went to one of the lowest ones. I believe its number was maybe 206, and that was in Charleston, West Virginia. Now, while I was gone, the store, as typical for a new store opening, starts really, really high in sales and declines. Except the decline never stopped. The store ended up becoming the highest volume restaurant we had when it opened to becoming one of the lowest, if not the lowest, volume restaurant that we had. It got so bad at that store, it actually was under its break-even point. And that's when, as a company, you start to get a little bit worried because you're spending money on advertising and you're spending money to bring people in. And if the store is not responding and the customers and consumers are not responding to your ads, there might be something wrong. So by this point, I had been promoted into management. Like I said, I was working in Charleston, West Virginia. I was able to negotiate a transfer back to Ashland, my original store. And that's a whole another story in and of itself. And they eventually asked me if I would go work in Ironton again. And I was thrilled because I loved the store. It was kind of neat to be one of the first people to work there. And now I'm going back as a manager. So when I get over there, I knew the store was low volume. But when I get over there, I see why it's low volume. The customers were not being waited on by happy people. Most of the employees looked at the customer walking in as an interruption to their goofing off because the store was literally that slow. Its big hour in the day would be about $200. Now, if you're thinking, well, you can do $200 today easily, you're right, you can. But back then, our top of the line sandwich was $1.49. So we're still waiting on a significant number of people to accumulate $200 in sales at $1.49. But the other stores, the other Axe restaurants were doing way better. So I was tasked with fixing the store. The task was, Bill, you either fix this store, get it above break even, or we're closing it, because they could sell the property and get themselves out from under the debt they'd incurred. So my first step, anytime you do marketing, the very first thing you want to do is not advertise. But you're going, Bill, this is about marketing. Yes, it is. What you want to do is make sure that when you advertise, because that's an invitation to please come eat my food, you can handle it. So we had to clean house. We had to get rid of some of the grumpy employees that hated being interrupted while they were goofing off and replace those with enthusiastic employees that wanted to wait on customers and be busy. We had to clean up the restaurant because they had managed to make it a pretty dirty place to be. And we had to get our systems in place as far as we're going to do this the way that the operations manual is written. We're going to work on speed of service. We're going to work on friendliness. We're going to work on the quality of food. So when somebody does by chance come into the restaurant, they are impressed. Once we got those things situated and to where I felt confident that when I invited somebody, they're not going to be disappointed, we started doing community involvement. Community involvement is simply getting yourself out in the community as a business, wearing your uniform, maybe taking some employees with you, and helping other people. We did a whole bunch of functions at schools where we were helping them raise money. We had a whole series of games that we would set up. Take a ping pong ball, knock down Coke cans and that kind of thing. We had a balloon dart board, throw a dart, bust a balloon, which I'm sure now they don't ever do because, sharp points and all. But we did those little kind of carnival-y games, and we'd set that up for free at anybody that was doing a fundraiser and help them to raise money. Every prize that we did was a coupon of some sort. Buy one, get one. And of course, the top prize would be get a free meal. And we gave out literally thousands of those different kinds of coupons to get people to come in. Now remember, this is a tiny town in Ironton, Ohio, right on the Ohio River. I don't remember what the population was, but it couldn't have been very many, certainly less than 10,000. And we handed out a bunch of coupons. We were at every event that anybody invited us to, from school systems to the local clubs that wanted to raise money and fund something. We were there. Sometimes 2 and 3 times a weekend, we were there doing something to get our name out there. I would have several employees that would come with me. We would all wear uniforms. We would pass out a lot of freebie stuff. We had our logo on everything, t-shirts and mugs and plastic cups. And then, of course, we had a whole bunch of coupons. Understand, not all of the coupons were free something. A bunch of the coupons were buy one and then get one. And once you understand how that works, it's not as painful as it would seem on your food costs. Because typically people come in and will buy more than what the requirement was to buy one, get one. If you have a buy one, get one sandwich, then they're going to buy drinks and side items. So now your food cost impact is not as bad. But it's still bringing in sales, and sales help pay other bills. The thing about increasing your sales, even if you do it in a buy one, get one situation, is your fixed costs, they don't increase, but you have more income coming in, which helps decrease the impact, the percentage impact of those on your P&L. So even though you may raise your food costs 2-3%, the impact on the fixed costs could be a reduction of 5 or 6%. So you actually net an increase in profitability. It's a hard concept for people to understand because they're more wrapped up in, my food costs went up. But if your sales went up in correspondence to that, that means some of the impact of those fixed costs has gone down percentage-wise. So giving away food is not a bad thing if you get an increase in sales overall. Anyway, we were out there doing our doing our thing with our community involvement. Like I said, we were out there sometimes 2 and 3 times over a weekend, helping different schools, helping different organizations to raise money, or helping organizations within school systems raise money, like the cheerleaders or the Spanish club or whatever it was they were trying to raise money for. Everything that we did, we made sure that whatever organization we went to, they mentioned us, and mentioned us a lot. So they're telling all the parents, they're telling all the members of the organization, they're telling everybody, Rax Restaurants was there helping us to raise money. Please come support us and please come support them. So yes, we spent some money giving away some stuff, but we didn't spend near the money had we tried to run ads on radio or local TV. We were nowhere near that. So we were out doing that every single day. And what happened was our sales were about $7,000 a week. Like I said, that was well under our break even. The break even, as I recall, was around $11,000. So we were $4,000 in the hole every single week. And that $4,000 was essentially making payroll and buying food. So if you think about it, it made sense to close that restaurant because they would automatically save the payroll and save purchasing food. It would be cheaper, even if they didn't sell the thing, just to close it and just pay the bills, again, those fixed costs of that particular restaurant site. So my challenge was to raise the sales, and that's what we did. We were roughly $7,000 a week average, and they'd been averaging that for a long time. We took it up within 3 months to over the break-even point. But we kept on going because the goal was not just to break even. The goal was to make money and then start to repay the company some of those dollar amounts that had been floating Ironton, Ohio. So we kept on going. We kept on doing what we started, and that was give stellar service, fantastic food, and then get our name out in the community every single weekend. Remember, this is before social media. I'm talking about early 80s here. So I didn't have the luxury of just getting on social media and engaging a bunch of people. I had to physically go do it. So we're out every weekend. And the result of us doing this for the whole summer and then into the fall and then into the winter, because winter is going to be really, really bad. We took our sales from that $7,000 plateau up over $14,000. So we doubled our sales by focusing on operations, getting that stuff right, and getting our name out, and consistently getting our name out every single weekend. You guys have the luxury today of social media. It makes it a whole lot easier to market because you can engage people, and you can engage people in a more personal way. But you also got to remember, you got to get your name out to people that have no clue you exist. You got to be involved in the community. There are always things going on in your community to fundraise. There's all kinds of Relay for Life, for example. That's something that goes on around the country. Get involved in those. Make sure that you're a sponsor. Get your name being listed as a sponsor. Any school that's still doing any type of publishing, whether it's online or if they're still physically doing some type of newsletter or newspaper, sponsor that. Let people know that you exist and that you support that local school. It's not about being a leech, and that's what a lot of food truck owners are. They are leeches. They go into a community and they want the community to come support them, support small business, but they don't give back to the community. They don't reinvest some of their income back to the community. To let the community know that, hey, I'm here for the long haul. We're going to be here as long as you're supporting us, but we're going to also support you. We're going to help you raise money. We're going to help worthy causes. We're going to help be a part of the community that we live in. That becomes a big deal. So now let's talk about Ironton, Ohio, the Rax Restaurants there. I told you that was the first new store that I'd ever opened as an employee. It was the first new store I'd ever worked in. They had a new concept, new design. It was opened in I can't remember if it was 79 or 80, but it opened roughly so I can't remember exactly when the Ironton, Ohio store opened. It was either late 70s, early 80s. But in either case, the company, Rax Restaurants, eventually closed because they made a whole bunch of stupid mistakes at the corporate level. And I left Rax Restaurants after 13 years when somebody called me up from the home office and said, hey, we're getting ready to sell these stores in Florida, and if you want to continue to work for Rax, you might want to move back to Kentucky or Ohio. And I said, no, thank you. I like the warm weather. I will find other employment opportunities here, and I stayed in Florida. That's when I started working for Wendy's. And my working at Wendy's came because of my relationship with the president, vice president at Rax Restaurants. So having said all that, the company, Rax Restaurants, eventually folded, and now there's only a handful of stores left. One of the people that I trained way, way back in the early 80s now owns the company. And what's interesting is his flagship store is Ironton, Ohio. A store that was on its last legs. It was literally on the chopping block because it was going to be cheaper to close the thing than it was to keep it open to make payroll. So we're talking about a store that has survived because of our community involvement. And of course, they kept it going long after I was gone. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made it. But that store is still open today. Y'all can do this, but you can't sit back and go, woe is me, every time you look at your sales and they're not where you want them to be. Every day you got to market. Every day you got to do social media. Every day you got to invite people to come eat your food. That's the only way you're going to be successful. Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow, because I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.